Welcome, one and all, to the mystical world of Filbar. Adventures abound throughout this realm, and we appreciate the opportunity to regale you with some stories from these trails. These accounts are all based on actual RPG experiences that occurred within Adventures in Filbar. Some of these tales may be for mature audiences, while others may be for very immature audiences. We now present the sage Mikas Tumo from Tamel, also known as the Bard of Filbar.
Welcome to session Fartook-98. In our last episode, the party started to sort out what they could have done and discovered that the Faceless One had been in possession of a Wand of Wonder that Cave now controls. Investigator Rockfist warned the party that with the scrawled images, every bounty hunter in the area would have an idea of what they were looking for, and now they had a huge target on their backs. With the hour growing late, the party opted to return to their rooms and meet with the Dwarven investigator again in the morning. We rejoin the party the next morning as they come to locate a meal. Guard whistles are blaring outside. "Oh, great," muttered Fargus Stoutheart as he picked up on the noise. Lady Irena and Cabe Silvertongue both pointed out that the whistles had been going off for several minutes and remarked how unusual it was for a constant barrage. The group shrugged and went outside, observing guards running in every direction. Several frightened townspeople were scurrying around when Sister Elaine grabbed a hold of a young boy. The cleric asked if the lad knew what was going on, and the adolescent reported that the town was under attack from centaurs. Evading the woman's grip, the boy ran across the street and disappeared into an alleyway. Stunned at the information, the group spotted a guard unit and chased after them in the same direction to offer aid. Clambering down the street, Bulger questioned the report as he had always heard that centaurs were a friendly folk. Karina inquired if centaurs were real as she had never actually seen one. Lady Irena, moving swiftly, slowed down a bit and confirmed that the half-horsemen were real, and while not exactly friendly, they were usually not a threat to human outposts. The party followed the guard unit to the walls and up the wooden stairs leading to the walkway near the top. Guards had already started to fire arrows into the approaching column of lance-wielding centaurs. The creatures stopped just out of range of the arrows and had formed a line. Fargus turned around as he heard creaking and spotted a catapult being moved through the streets. Apprehension took over the group as the situation was certain to turn ugly. Cabe inquired if this was usual at Fort Myers, to a nearby guard who was obviously frightened. The young man explained that the centaurs had never attacked the fort, and some had even come inside the walls and caused no trouble. Loud shouting from behind the party caused them to turn and spot the captain of the watch, attempting to get his armor in place and yelling orders to move men and machine in place to defend the settlement. Catching eyesight of the group, he began to shake his head and began to lambast the heroes. I should have known I would have found you in the middle of this mess," he shouted angrily, and continued, "Do I have you to thank for this incursion?" Fargus turned beet red in anger, and as he began to boil over at the accusation, Karina stepped in between the men and lambasted the captain of the watch. "Look, idiot, we've been inside the walls. How do you suppose we would be responsible for this mess?" The large man bristled at the rebuke and balled up his fist to apparently strike the waif as Fargus's hand moved to his blade. A cry out from Lady Irena diffused the situation rapidly as she pointed out one of the centaurs was approaching and had hoisted a white flag of truce. The adventurers and guards alike turned to the captain of the watch to see what his reaction would be. Eyes darting around, the man thought quickly and yelled out, "Someone get me Rockfist! Hold your fire, everyone!" The commander was obviously formulating a plan for the event as everyone waited in anticipation. Looking to the mage and bard, he inquired if they would be willing to come with him. The pair looked around and questioned his demand. He explained that their elven blood is appreciated by centaurs, and the two races usually got along. Lady Irena nodded in assent and turned to Cabe. Shrugging his shoulders, he inquired if there was going to be parley. The watch commander nodded and pointed out that talking didn't take lives, and perhaps an accord could be reached with the angry centaurs. Fargus began to chime in about going, but Lady Irena pointed out that the commander's size would be barely tolerated, while the presence of 2 large warriors would cause the horsemen some concern. Fargus attempted to argue, but the others all agreed that her perspective was correct. She poked him in the chest and told him to grab a crossbow and protect her flank from above. The dwarven investigator rushed to the base of the wall as the threesome climbed back down. Attempting to strap on her armor, she stated, "I was told we were under invasion?" Her commander confirmed the report, but stated that a flag of truce was being flown by one of the Centaurs. "Centaurs?" she exclaimed wildly. "Is it Tamu?" The commander rolled his eyes and pointed out that they all looked alike to him, and she would have to determine that. The mage and bard looked at each other and mused that Rockfist must have had some experience dealing with the horsemen. The group made their way to the fortified entrance where a cadre of nervous guards were present, along with a pair of ballista aimed in the general direction of the approaching horde. "Open the gates!" bellowed the warrior. But the men and women balked, and he had to repeat his request in a much angrier tone. Begging your pardon, sir, but there's a pack of wild centaurs out there ready to kill us all." Muttering under her breath, Rockfist called the guard an idiot, and an exasperated commander pointed out that he was well aware of the enemy and wanted to be the first to die. The remark caught the guards off kilter, and the dwarven female put her hands on her hips and told the man to just open the door. The guards complied, and the gates grinded open. A trio of centaur entered the caged area where the heroes had entered initially. 2 males and 1 female entered and clomped their way to the entry gate. Rockfist stepped forward and bowed politely. "Felina, it is a pleasure to see you again. It has been—" but was cut off in mid-sentence by the female centaur. "Spare me your pleasantries, Rockfist. I'm here on revenge. Will you be stopping me, or will you allow me my right as the widow?" Stunned at the response, Rockfist inquired what she meant by the widow remark. It was the centaur's turn to be taken aback, and inquired if the dwarves' elven companions had not told her. She looked to both Lady Anarena and Cabe, who were quite lost in the conversation. The female centaur scanned their faces of those present, and made the shocking claim that the elves were responsible for Tamu's death last night, and demanded that they be turned over to the centaurs for trial and then execution. Both the mage and bard took a step back, and the flanking centaur males quickly knocked arrows. The human guards immediately did the same, and one of the ballistic crews swung the weapon onto them as targets. Felina did not move, and her eyes were locked on Rockfist's face. Shaking her head, Rockfist spoke to the centaur. "I'm not sure what you mean, my friend. These 2 and their associates were with me last night. All last night, until the wee hours. I think there's been a misunderstanding."
We close out this episode now and give you our thanks for listening. Please subscribe to this podcast, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at The Bards Podcast. For everyone in Adventures of Filbar, thanks for listening.